It was a quiet afternoon in Los Angeles, the kind of golden, breezy day where nothing much seemed to happen, until the photos hit the internet. Dakota Johnson, dressed in a loose cream sweater, dark sunglasses, and her usual understated elegance, was spotted walking hand in hand with a man no one recognized. They weren't hiding, but they weren't flaunting it either. Just two people, laughing softly as they crossed a sunlit street in Silver Lake. Within hours, those few candid shots set Hollywood on fire. New love? Dakota Johnson spotted with mystery man after Chris Martin split, screamed the headlines. For fans who had been following Dakota's journey over the years, the timing was impossible to ignore. Only weeks earlier, news had quietly broken that her 6-year relationship with Coldplay frontman Chris Martin had come to an end. There were no dramatic statements, no messy interviews, just silence. A single insider quote said it all. They love each other deeply but have grown in different directions. So, when these new photos surfaced, the internet did what it always does, filled the silence with noise. The man walking beside Dakota wasn't a celebrity, at least not one the public recognized. Tall, broad-shouldered, casually dressed in a navy jacket and jeans, he looked more like someone you'd pass on the street than a Hollywood insider. Yet there was something about the way Dakota looked at him, calm, open, unguarded, that made people stop scrolling. She was smiling the whole time, said one onlooker who had seen them at a small cafe near Echo Park. Not the polite smile you give to fans or photographers, it was real. Like she was light again. That observation hit home for many fans. Over the years, Dakota had become known for her composure, graceful, grounded, always slightly mysterious. Even during her time with Chris, she kept her private life locked tight. But lately, something had shifted. In recent red carpet appearances, her smile seemed more subdued, her energy quieter. The world could sense that something was unraveling long before the breakup was announced. Now, seeing her laugh again, genuinely laugh, felt almost like witnessing a small miracle. Paparazzi who followed the pair captured more moments. Dakota sipping her coffee, listening intently as the man spoke. Him holding the door open for her with an easy familiarity. Their hands brushing together before finally intertwining. None of it looked staged. It looked human. By evening, social media was ablaze. Twitter threads dissected every photo angle. TikTok fan edits paired clips of Dakota with Coldplay's Fix You, and Instagram gossip pages speculated wildly about who this mystery man could be. Some claimed he was a producer, others said he was a cinematographer she'd worked with on an indie project months ago. Dakota Johnson is too private to do anything for attention, one fan tweeted. If she's out there smiling like that, it means something. But not everyone saw it as a simple new beginning. For some, the images stirred nostalgia and confusion. Just a few months earlier, Dakota and Chris had been photographed in London, appearing as steady as ever. She had even been spotted at one of Coldplay's shows, cheering him on from the side stage. How could something that seemed so stable unravel so quietly? A friend close to Dakota offered a small glimpse into her world. Dakota's never been one to chase headlines. If she's seeing someone, it's because he makes her feel grounded. After years of living under the spotlight, she just wants peace, someone who doesn't care who she is on camera. Still, peace seemed impossible now. By nightfall, entertainment outlets across the globe had picked up the story. E! News, People, Daily Mail, TMZ. All plastered her photos across their homepages. Some praised her for moving on. Others accused her of moving too fast. Through it all, Dakota remained silent. No statements, no clarifications, no denials. She simply went on with her day, walking her dog, visiting a friend, grabbing coffee, while the world speculated endlessly. But what no one could deny was this: there was something different about her. Her posture was lighter, her laugh freer. For someone who had always carried herself like a woman balancing two worlds, Hollywood glamour and quiet authenticity, Dakota finally seemed to be leaning into one. The real one. One eyewitness summed it up best in an interview the next day. She wasn't trying to hide. She looked happy, like someone who'd stopped pretending she was fine, and finally was. As night fell over Los Angeles, the mystery man and Dakota disappeared into the city lights, their silhouettes fading beyond the reach of flashing cameras. But for the first time in a long while, Dakota Johnson wasn't defined by who she'd been with, or what she'd lost, but by a quiet, undeniable truth written all over her face. Something, or someone, had finally made her smile again. The photos didn't fade away after a day like most celebrity gossip. They lingered, on magazine covers, in trending hashtags, in late-night talk show jokes. Everyone wanted to know, who was the mystery man walking beside Dakota Johnson, and what did this mean after her quiet split from Chris Martin? But Dakota herself remained silent, moving through Los Angeles with her usual calm, coffee in hand, sunglasses shielding her from the chaos. Yet, the truth behind those photos was far more complicated than the tabloids imagined. The man's name, as it would soon be revealed, was Julian Hayes, a rising filmmaker, known for directing small, arthouse projects that prioritized emotion over spectacle. He wasn't famous, but in creative circles, he was respected. According to industry insiders, Julian and Dakota had met nearly a year earlier, during an independent film project she'd helped produce. Back then, she was still with Chris. They connected through creativity, said a source close to the production. They spent long hours discussing scripts, music, lighting, not romance. But there was a mutual understanding there, something very natural. After the film wrapped, they stayed in touch sporadically, friendly texts, the occasional phone call. But as Dakota's relationship with Chris began to quietly dissolve, those casual conversations became something deeper. He was just easy to talk to, the source continued. No pressure, no spotlight. He reminded her of a world that wasn't built around fame. Still, Dakota wasn't ready for the world to know. The breakup with Chris had been gentle but heavy, filled with mutual respect but lingering sadness. 6 years together doesn't end without leaving marks. Friends said she struggled with the contrast, how she could still love someone deeply, yet know the relationship had run its course. Chris is an incredible man, she once told a friend privately. But sometimes two good people can't keep growing in the same direction. So, when Julian reappeared in her life, quietly, kindly, with no questions or expectations, it felt less like falling in love and more like remembering what it meant to breathe again. As the headlines grew louder, Dakota and Julian did their best to keep the world out. They avoided romantic gestures in public, choosing quiet places, a small bookstore in Silver Lake, a late dinner at a dimly lit restaurant in Echo Park. But it was impossible to stay invisible for long. When paparazzi finally identified Julian, fans rushed to learn everything about him. He was older than expected, early 40s, British, private. He'd never been photographed at a premiere, and his Instagram page was filled only with grainy black and white photos of landscapes and handwritten notes. He's not a celebrity, one fan commented online. And that's probably why Dakota likes him. But not everyone was kind. Some questioned the timing, accusing Dakota of moving on too fast. Others speculated that her mystery man was a rebound. Through it all, Dakota kept her composure, until one evening, as she left a charity gala, a journalist called out, "Dakota, is Julian your new love?" She stopped, smiled softly, and simply said, "Not everything has to be explained." The clip went viral instantly. Her calm, deliberate tone silenced most critics. Because that was Dakota, never defensive, never dramatic, always choosing grace over gossip. Still, behind the scenes, those close to her said this moment was less about romance and more about rediscovery. "She's finding her balance again," a friend revealed. After years of being part of a high-profile couple, Dakota's finally living her life on her own terms. Whether this turns into love or not doesn't matter. What matters is that she's smiling again. Meanwhile, Chris Martin, ever the gentleman, avoided comment. But sources close to him said he wished her the best. "They'll always have love for each other," one insider said. "They just reached the point where love wasn't enough." Weeks later, Dakota was seen again with Julian, this time in New York, attending an art exhibit quietly, blending into the crowd. No security, no red carpet. Just two people admiring the same painting, sharing a soft laugh. When asked later what happiness looked like to her these days, Dakota's answer was simple. "Happiness isn't about being seen," she said. "It's about being understood." And in those few words, she summed up everything: the heartbreak, the healing, and the quiet possibility of something new. Whether Julian Hayes was her new love or simply a chapter of calm after the storm, only Dakota knew for sure. But to the world watching, she no longer looked like the woman defined by someone else's shadow. She looked like Dakota Johnson, independent, radiant, and finally at peace with the kind of love that didn't need to be shouted to be real. As one magazine headline later put it perfectly, "She's not chasing romance, she's finding herself." And maybe, that's the most beautiful love story of all.